right. Well, look at that. I get to talk, and I'm shy. I don't like public speaking very much, so I'm really honored to receive this award. I'm not deserving. So many people go into it. We have a phenomenal staff that works on a daily basis, and I'm very proud of Florida being a state that's home to so many veterans. I don't know what the statistics are, but I don't know the exact number. I know what the statistics say, that Florida really leads the nation in terms of the number of veterans, both people that serve here and then come back after their service, and the number of people we provide the services on an annual basis. And so I think it brings great strength and resiliency to the state, and I'm very proud of it. I'm also reminded as I was up here, I was like, as you read that resolution and that award, which I'm very honored to receive, it reminded me of all we've done and then a few things we have left undone that we still have to get done and that we're hoping to get done. Plus, it's always continuous work. I'll give you an example, the VA Accountability Act, which said that it was this really revolutionary idea. It was shocking, very controversial, because it basically said that if someone's not doing a good job at the VA, you could fire them. And so it was really weirded everybody out. It's like, how can they fire them? And the initial one actually said only upper level employees, and then it'll let you go down a little bit more. But now the VA has told us, well, thank you for passing the law, but we're not going to enforce it. It's too burdensome. Which is pretty amazing to have an agency say, hey, there's a law on the books, we know there's a law on the books, but we just don't feel like doing it, sue us, kind of attitude. So, we're going to have to address that in the implementation. About 90% of government is in the hands of people that have never been elected to anything. They consider us, people like me and others, temporary employees, but they'll be there forever. It doesn't make them evil or anything like that. It's just, it's an issue with bureaucracy. It's an issue, that's the fundamental challenge with it. That we face. And a lot of them are really good people, and they work hard and they try hard and they want to do the right thing, and they're just overwhelmed by the workload, whatever it may be. But so we still have work to do, and I'm grateful. Beyond that, I would just say, and this is a group of so many people that have given me, you've sacrificed, your family sacrificed for the service of the greatest country in the history of the world, and it's always important to remind ourselves of what it is that made America great, because I actually think we've abandoned many of the foundations of our greatness and made some terrible mistakes. I happen to have a pretty busy week because I came out with a book, and it's not really a biographical book. It's really a book that says things. Here's the gist of it. It's like an 8-hour audio version that I had to read, which hurt my throat. I'll tell you a true story. It hurt my throat because I had to go to this. I go to this studio. They thought it would take me 3 days to do it. Only took me 2 days to do it. So I go to the studio to tape it. And I walk into the studio to tape or to do the thing and whatever. And first of all, these microphones they have are like incredibly sensitive, right? So like if you haven't eaten breakfast that morning and your stomach's growling, the camera picks it up, and it's like, wow, what do I do about that? But then it was still kind of smoky in there. I was like, what's going on? I goes, oh, don't. There's some hip hop group here over. They recorded all night. They were smoking their favorite herb of some sort, and so the room was still, and I'm sure they all have glaucoma or whatever, because that's how you get the medical, and so the room smelled, so no wonder I was hungry, right? Because but anyways, so that's the audio book and version of it. But here's the gist of the book. The gist of the book is that the Cold War ends, right? And these people, and then not evil people, they were just really wrong when they said, oh, guess what? Everyone's going to be a democracy. Everyone's going to be a free enterprise economy. Everyone's going to be just like us. So country doesn't really matter anymore. What matters now is that we're consumers and investors in a global economy. And the important thing is that things be made in the cheapest way possible so that investors can make back more money and prices will be lower for you. And that was the attitude, basically. And by the way, there are never going to be any more nation-state wars. This is a true line. They used to use it all the time. No two countries that have a McDonald's have ever gone to war against each other. That's what they used to say. And obviously, McDonald's is not doing well in either Ukraine or Russia right now, but they both had McDonald's. But the point being is that this notion that somehow nation state didn't matter, place didn't matter anymore, and so it didn't really matter where things were made or where the jobs were, because we were all citizens of this global economy. And there's cringeworthy quotes, and to be fair, bipartisan, from George H.W. Bush, from Bill Clinton, saying things like, well, when we send our jobs and our factories to China, we're not just sending our jobs, we're sending our values. Like if somehow, oh, drinking Coca-Cola makes you a democracy that respects individual liberty. It's like, oh, thanks for the Coca-Cola. We should have a Declaration of Independence and Constitution too. It doesn't work that way. So, plus this is an ancient culture, right? The Chinese culture goes back thousands of years. So, this was a terrible mistake. We got away with it for a while because we were the only power in the world. And then about 2014, 2015, people wake up and realize, wait a second, what's going on here? Like China suddenly can make more things than we can make. We depend on them for anything. They're not some poor developing country anymore. I mean, they're actually have a military that can rival us in parts of the world. They're surpassing us in other technologies. And they're no longer pretending that they're a poor country. They're talking very aggressively, And that's the other funny thing about the China threat, because for years, people would say China's not interested in world domination. They just want to have, some development. Because no one ever happened to hire a Mandarin interpreter, right, translator. But to this day, this is true. They put out press releases, one in English, one in Chinese. The English one, things like, we want cooperation and work hand in hand and a win-win. The Chinese one says, we're going to destroy these people, we're going to be the grave diggers of capitalism, and we're going to be the world's most powerful country. So apparently for a long time, nobody bothered to translate what they were saying in Chinese to what they were saying to us, but now they don't even try to hide it anymore. Suffice it to say this, it did matter. Because and if you look at when China joined the World Trade Organization in 2001 to today, it almost is an even loss. For every job they gained is a job we lost, for every factory that left. And here's what we learned the hard way. Number one, jobs aren't just about a paycheck. Jobs are also about dignity. Jobs are also about what happens that gives stability to your life. And when they don't exist, it doesn't just hurt your economy, it hurts everything. You can't have a PTA. You can't have vibrant schools and community. It's hurt our veterans. If you think about how many people used to leave the service of our country and go work in some industrial capacity or some industry that was once located in America, now that job is not there, it creates a hopelessness, a level of despair. It's corrosive to the human spirit, and it's hurt our country badly. The same with our industrial capacity. You cannot be a great country if you're not an industrial power. You just can't do it. During World War II, the Japanese planes made by Mitsubishi and others, they were actually better than our planes. But the difference is, every time they lost a plane, they lost a plane. Every time we lost a plane, there were like 15 more rolling off the factory that night. They took on an industrial power and they couldn't withstand it because the World War II was won, yes, by the men that fought and died, by the sacrifice that was made by so many Americans here on the home front. But it was won by our industrial power, by the ability to take car factories and turn them into tanks. I mean, if you look at the numbers of things that we were cranking out in the midst of World War II, and it's unbelievable. Well, today, we have a drug shortage. Again, this week, we called all the key cancer centers in Florida, and we asked them. They are all rationing, and they are all carefully budgeting and limiting chemotherapy medications. Because though we invented them, we don't make them. You know why we don't make them? Because someone decided it's cheaper to make them in China, so let's make it over there. And so today, we are vulnerable to disruptions in the supply of drugs, but to extortion. I'm giving you one example. I could go down the list. When people talk about more electric cars and electric vehicles, look, I have nothing against them, as long as they don't catch on fire, like some of the ones I've seen on television. But look, there's nothing evil about it, okay? I'm not getting on an electric plane, I'll tell you right now. But on, you know what I mean? Because I'm not going to be the guy that the pilot said, hey, did you plugged this in last night, right? And he goes, no, I thought you did. I said, uh-oh. We still struggle to charge our cell phones. I'm going to wait for that one to develop a little further, But anyway, the electric cars and all, it's all fine. Here's the problem. Those batteries, we invented them. They're all made in China. The solar panels, I have nothing against solar. Fine. You want to have solar panel? Go ahead. I mean, it's good. There's nothing evil about that. If we can do that, the better. If it's cheaper, especially, great. We invented it. You have to buy them from China. They're all made in China. And so the list goes on and on and on. We depend on China for so many things. We have given them our industrial capacity. It's made them rich. It's hollowed out our cities. I didn't know this till I ran for president. I'm from Florida. We don't have a rust belt in Florida. We have places that are struggling and hurting, especially like in agriculture. But we don't have like big towns that were once vibrant and then suddenly hollowed out. Flint, Michigan was at one time one of the most prosperous, upwardly mobile cities in America. And we've turned city after city and place after place into ghost town because someone decided, listen, it's cheaper if the stuff is done somewhere else. And don't worry, you're going to get, a better job will come and take the place of the one that was just taken away. You just got to learn how to code and move to San Francisco. Which, you know, maybe it works out if you're 21 years old, but not if you're 45 and have a family to raise and so forth. So it's been destructive to the fiber and ability of our country. But the one that you'll really care about is our military industrial base, because we have big military contractors, great. You know, one of the things we're struggling with now is we have a military industrial capacity challenge. We can't make it fast enough. When people say, demand, we need to send more things to Ukraine, I'll say, guys, you don't understand, we can send it to them, but we have to have it. It's not like, oh, here's an F-16, here's an F-15 right off the shelf, we'll just go buy one at, you know, Walmart and just put it up. It doesn't work that way. These things have to be made. We can't make them fast enough because we don't have the industrial capacity. And you think about that, and then you think about all these people out there looking for work. You think about all these people out there graduating from high school, even graduating from college, and they've got these degrees, and they borrowed a bunch of money, and it's like, okay, thank you, your political science degree. Well, what can I do with it? About the same thing you could have done without it. Meanwhile, we have, you know, thousands. I don't know for the life of me why we're not teaching kids in high school and certifying them in high school. So you graduate from high school when you're an auto mechanic tech. Because these people, these BMW techs make a lot. The body shop people make a lot of money, trust me. I don't even want to get into it because then I have to talk about insurance deductibles. That light, that little fender's $4,000. So yes, we got to get it from China. I'm kidding, I didn't say that, but they didn't say that part. But these are good jobs. And somehow there was a time in America we started telling people, oh, it doesn't matter. Listen, if there's not a Netflix series about your job, you know, if you don't get to wear a suit and tie to work, if you don't get to, you know, if it's not some fancy title, it's not a real job. It's not a good job. Those are jobs for people who don't know what they're doing. And for our veterans, you think about this for a moment, some of the skills that people learn in the service of our country. Okay? So things they learn how to do and how hard we make them to transition that to private life. So I think this is no longer an issue in most states, but it was for a while. When I was running for president, we were dealing with this issue. Okay, a guy he was in logistics, which, you know, means he's moving around all these important assets in Afghanistan. I forgot who was deployed in Afghanistan, Iraq, combat zone. Comes back, wants to be a trucker, and they say, oh, well, you're not qualified. I said, well, what do you mean? So I remember having this conversation with some of the people, and like, well, yeah, you know, he's got to go through this, he's got to go through that. I said, hold on a second. This guy used to haul like explosives in a war zone, but he can't haul eggs on the interstate highway system of the United States. And so you think about that from a... So, or you serve, like this has happened too, we're changing in that regard, but let's say you're in cryptology or something, you're in the military, and then you want to get hired by a government agency. It's like, well, he still has to go to college and get a degree. It's like, so he's got to take a class in philosophy and, you know, all these other things. He's got to graduate. This guy was like hacking computers, which is what you want him to do, but he can't do it for you because he still has to go back to school and get a degree and, you know, and spend that time. It's just nonsensical stuff, but we've done it to our industrial base. So the point is jobs mattered. It hurt our economy. It hurt our industrial capacity, but it also destroyed our communities. And that's the point I really drive at in all of this. Look, I believe in capitalism, the free market. I don't think socialism works. I think it's a disaster. I live in a community of people that have risked their lives to get away from it. So I believe in the free market 100%, but the challenge we're now having, really in my party, this is really a debate among Republicans, is the free market is the right approach because it's always going to move money to the most efficient place. But what do you do when the most efficient outcome is not in the national interest? Because it is cheaper to make those medicines, those batteries, those solar panels in China. So it's more efficient, no doubt. But is it in our national interest? And that's where we have lost the balance. We have lost the balance because we started pretending and believing that somehow we, the country, exists to serve the market. No, it's the market that exists to serve the country. The market, the free market, is a tool that we use to strengthen the country and improve our lives. And we should not be afraid. I'm not an isolationist, but we should not be afraid to act in our national interest, to say that in every decision we make, our #1 obligation is to make the best decision for America. And I think Mexico is going to make the best decisions for Mexico and Canada for Canada. And the reason why I believe that is we are the only government in the world that is going to even think about acting in the best interest of America. But we somehow pretended that didn't matter anymore. Meanwhile, every decision China has made for the last 100 years, and the last 60 years, and the last 30 years have all been about the best interest of China. And other countries do this too, and we're the only ones that didn't. Now, diplomacy and partnership and alliance is when your best interest and my best interest are aligned, and so we work together, right? So that's what should influence trade policy and diplomacy and security. The Japanese are afraid of the Chinese and what they might do in that region, and they're very capable, and we are concerned about. There's our interest aligned. So it's a tough transition, and it's one that we need to make as a country, but it applies across the board. But it especially applies to those who are in the service of our country, because it will begin to impact them as well. You know, recruitment numbers are substantially down, and that doesn't, I shouldn't say it doesn't surprise me, it troubles me. Because here's what I'll leave you with. We can pass laws. We can certainly pass laws that regulate the VA and how we treat our veterans, and we can try to fix those laws and make sure they're being operated and done the right way. The one thing we can't do is government can't pass laws to raise kids. Government can't pass laws that create families and community. And that really is what a country is. A country is, yes, it's a geography, and geography matters, and borders matter, and outlines matter, and placehood matters. Placehood always matters. That's the other big mistake, the notion that it doesn't matter where things happen anymore. It does. You put people anywhere. And I use this range because, you know, I think it tells you two elements of the human condition. You drop people in a prison, or you drop people on a college campus, and the first thing people will do and have done, as long as man has been on earth, is they try to join something. Because we have this need to belong. We are social creatures. We have this need to align with others. This organization exists. This is a civic community organization made up of people who belong together because they have a shared experience. And I guarantee you, I haven't taken a poll, I have no idea, but I guarantee you that every single one of you does not agree on every issue. I guarantee you that every single one of you, I guarantee you that there are people here that have voted for different people in the same election. I mean, I doubt whether there's anybody here that didn't vote for me, right? But, because I'm like Saddam Hussein, you know, 99%, you know, and you spend the rest of the year looking for that one guy that didn't vote for you. You remember those numbers? Saddam Hussein won 99-1, and it's like, who's that one? You know, and I'm sure they're dead by now, but we don't have that problem here. But all kidding aside, and it shocks people. Let me tell you a true story, okay? See, this is great. This is where I'm going to know who voted for me and who didn't. I'm walking in the Senate one day, and standing next to me is Bernie Sanders, okay? See, I found that, so I already know kind of who's on whose side here, okay. And I'm talking to the guy. I'm talking to him. And I see these people walk by, like visitors to the Capitol. I surmised by the expression on their face that they were Republicans, because they were shocked. They were like, oh my God. It reminds me also of like the poor kid that goes to the airport after a professional wrestling match and sees the villain and the hero having a drink at the bar. It's like, oh my gosh, it's not real. So anyway, and Bernie and I were talking, and I forget, but it wasn't about politics. I'll tell you exactly what it was something about ice cream. He's like a big fan of ice cream, and he was talking about like some shortage of some ice cream. I forgot exactly the context of it. But here's the point, and here's the interesting thing about the Senate. Despite all the screaming you see on TV, any single senator can stop anything for a long time in the Senate. And there's only 100 of them, so you know everybody. So it almost forces you, like one day I'm fighting with you on an issue, but literally 30 minutes later, we're on the same side on some other issue. It's just weird, and it happens that way. A lot of what happens is bipartisan. A lot of the veteran issues are bipartisan. In fact, on the VA accountability, the first one we passed, Bernie was the chairman of that committee. And I had to deal with him to get it passed, and he was supportive of it. So anyway, these people have this shocked look of horror on their face, like, oh my God, they speak to each other. And we're really far apart on the ideological spectrum. My point is that used to happen in the country all the time. Because people used to have common experiences with other people. Okay, you know, you voted this way, I voted that way, but our kids are in the same school, we're members of the same organization, we both fought in a foreign war, or our families did. We go to the same church, whatever it may be. And now we are increasingly alienated and isolated from others because we have destroyed the institutions where that happened. And it's gotten so corrosive and so pervasive that it's reached into the family. It breaks my heart when I hear that people no longer speak to family members. over politics. Over politics. And it comes from both sides, you know, right? I mean, sometimes the family member they don't speak to anymore just won't stop talking about this stuff. The point is that we have destroyed community because that is where people lived alongside each other. And why have we destroyed community? One of the things that's led to the destruction of community is to have community, you have to have good, stable jobs. You have to have stability in the society. Because you won't have a PTA president. You won't have Little League coaches. You won't even have a VFW if there are not stable, good-paying jobs that allow people to anchor and become part of a community. And that's why these decisions that were made are not just about economics, they're about our society. You cannot be a strong country if you don't have strong families and strong communities. You just can't do it. And we can't pass a law that forces people to be good parents and raise their children. And all we can do is make sure that our laws don't undermine that. And then people have to take that responsibility to do it. And our nature will do it. It is in our nature, our instinctive nature, to care for children. It is in our instinctive nature to join up with others for common cause. But you have to have the economic stability for that to be possible. And without it, nothing else works. Everything else becomes destructive and corrosive. And I do worry deeply that we face these challenges. And Beijing and China is 100% focused on their goal. And their goal is simple, to be the world's most dominant and powerful country at our expense. And we are engaged in a daily fight over whatever. And there's a lot of reasons that drive that. And so there's a lot to be done here. The good news is that one of the things that I still believe unifies our country across the political spectrum is to do right by our veterans. And the fact that we are still working so hard to make it happen. One thing is to actually make it happen, and then the other thing is to make sure that it's implemented appropriately. But I think this is important for two reasons. The first is that there's a real moral obligation. We make a promise to people that when they're out there taking care of us, when they need us in the future, we'll take care of them. And that's a promise that needs to be kept. But the other is this, and it goes back to the recruitment numbers. If you are a country of people and all you read every day is that veterans are committing suicide, are homeless, have trouble have to fight with the VA every day for the services that they earned and are entitled to, when all you read is about that, you ask yourself, well, why would I ever want to be a veteran? Why would I ever want to serve? Because all I see is that everyone that leaves the service of our country comes back and is mistreated. And the headlines blare this every single day. And so I actually think that's a major factor. You know, how many colleges go around saying, 60% of our graduates commit suicide after they leave our school? That school would not survive for long. People will not be signing up to go to that school. So why would they be signing up to go to the military if they keep hearing all this negativity? And some of this obviously is because of the stresses and the situations we've put people in. Never before in the history of our country has such a heavy burden been placed on such a small percentage of our population. But part of it is that after the service of our country, the systems that exist to serve our veterans are often designed to get to no rather than yes, are often designed to make it harder to get access, not easier. And that's going to hurt. Not only is it wrong, it's going to hurt our ability in the future to attract people to serve our country in any capacity, much less in the military. And so we have a lot of work to do. I would say that other than everything I've just outlined, I think things are going well. That was a joke, get it? Everything's going well except for all that, you know. But I still am optimistic about the future of our country. And one of the reasons why I'm optimistic is because of the experiences every time I come and talk to you about you'll leave here and you're going to go about your lives where you're making a difference, and you guys are making a difference every single day in people's lives and in being a powerful voice. And I'm grateful and I'm honored to receive this award today and to be here with you. And I thank you again. And I look forward to, hopefully, the next time we are together, we'll have gotten some even more progress on some of the issues we've discussed today. So thank you all. God bless you. God bless you for everything you've done. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.